A group of investors have launched another lawsuit against the Walt Disney Company. Let's find out why. But before we begin, hi, I'm Jacob Berry. I'm the host of StudioJake. This is my vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture, from anime, film, television, celebrity news, and so much more. Be sure to like this video, leave me a comment, tell me what you think, share it out, and also subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subs, so every single click of that subscribe button helps me out. All right. So I previously talked about another lawsuit that Disney is facing from a company that was working with 20th Century Fox before they were acquired by Disney and changed their name to 20th Century Studios. They're alleging all kinds of stuff. You can go back and watch that video. You can also read up on it. But this is a second lawsuit. This just goes to show you: go woke, go broke, or get woke, go broke, whatever the saying is. So this is from Bounding into Comics. Group of Disney investors sue the Walt Disney Company, Bob Chapek, Bob Iger, and more for damaging the company and insider trading. A group of investors or shareholders of the Walt Disney Company have filed a lawsuit against the Walt Disney Company, Bob Chapek, Bob Iger, Christine McCarthy, Kareem Daniel, Susan Arnold, and other Disney executives for damaging the company. You don't say. The 63-page claim was filed by Stourbridge Investments LLC on behalf of a number of Disney shareholders and the Walt Disney Company. It accuses the company and its executives of violating the Exchange Act, breaches of fiduciary duty, insider trading, and misappropriation of information, unjust enrichment, and waste of corporate assets. Oh my gosh, that is, I have to say, I'm not surprised. I've got to be honest with you. I'm in shocked it took this long. Disney has been on a downward trend since 2019, around the time that that the pandemic happened, when the government illegally put us under house arrest and made us wear face diapers and all that jazz. We're But before that, they were already having struggles with the fan base of all these companies they acquired. I heard a YouTuber say once Disney was the right company to acquire Lucasfilm, Marvel Entertainment, Pixar. Even Pixar they had done years prior, and possibly even 20th Century Fox. The problem was they hated the fans that came with those groups. And listen, I get it. It is hard when you're a new company and then you inherit this fan base, and that's very demanding. But you know what you don't do? You don't ridicule them. You don't call them names. You don't accuse them of being bigots, which is what Disney did. And as a result of that, all uh, all of the goodwill that fans originally had for the Walt Disney Company went out the door. And so, and I even will admit this, even shall we say, pop culture channels, YouTube channels, and whatnot that watch this stuff, they can be hypercritical at times. But why shouldn't they be? Like, I defend Andor. I think Andor is a really good television show. I think it really measures up with Star Wars. Same with the film that originated the story of Andor, that being Rogue One. I also really enjoyed Star Wars Vision, as well as the first two seasons of The Mandalorian. However, I try to be honest and say, oh, this isn't as bad as people are saying, which is what I did with Andor. I defended Andor. However, I can't, even as a Star Wars fan since I was, 9 years old, I can't defend Obi-Wan. I can't defend the Book of Boba Fett other than say it was vanilla. It wasn't really exciting as a spinoff of The Mandalorian. You know, Even the actor who plays Boba Fett admitted this. What Where I'm going with this is you just see all of the missteps Bob Iger and Bob Chapek met. And I kind of feel bad for Bob Chapek because he was trying to move away from the woke ideologue, taking the reins of the company and giving it to social media activists who don't even watch Disney movies. That Bob Chapek was trying to move away, but then he started that feud with Florida, and it just didn't work out for him. So Bob Iger's back, and Bob Iger is just slashing. That's his strategy. So even though Disney Plus is losing subscribers, they haven't gained anything. They're fudging the numbers with the Ahsoka series, which I haven't seen, so I'm not going to comment on it other than to say I thought the trailer was fine, but I haven't seen the show. So I'm not going to say whether I like it or not, but just, I mean, as of this video, hopefully I'll get a chance to watch it at some point. But it is starting to really affect Disney as a whole. Before, the parks were kind of holding the company up, but that's not the case anymore, especially with flop after flop. People constantly changing how their Disney princesses are perceived, and you've got actresses who are playing the Disney princesses talking about how dated the original films were and how much they hate the product and hate the characters in it, acting like spoiled brats. So yeah, of course, investors are, seeing this and are going to want to challenge this. And, this is according to Bleeding Fool, their stocks are at a 9-year low. The Walt Disney Company's stock price reached a low of $82.47 on Thursday. Its lowest since the stock reached a low $83.83 in October of 2014, when the shares last traded below $84. In fact, the wake of no less than 5% no less than 5 recent box office bombs, the value of Disney stock has dropped by 34% in the past year alone. And if you go back to March 2021, the stock has dropped almost 60%. What's happening to the value of the biggest global entertainment brand in history? Yeah, that's a good question. What happened was they bought up all of these properties and were not willing to engage with the fans of these properties. And so they were expecting the fans just to dish out whatever came out because they slapped the name Star Wars or the Avengers onto it. And that just didn't happen. And so as a result, Disney is facing the consequences of that. They took their cues from a bunch of social media weirdos who were pushing wokeness, who were pushing political correctness, who were pushing communism and hyperized third wave feminism and all this stuff. And as a result, Disney is reaping the benefits of not turning to the people who actually watch their products, people who care about values, people who remember the legacy of Walt Disney, even though he had been passed away, decades before. Walt Disney, and I credit Mike Eisner with this. Mike Eisner was the CEO when I was growing up. He made sure that people remembered Walt. He really put Walt out there, put him in the forefront of everything they did. And so even after the Disney Renaissance, which Eisner ushered in, they started to, go bad where they did all these animated Disney sequels and they did some subpar movies that no one really cared about or wanted. And also the failure of the parks in Asia that really hurt Mike Eisner. And then Bob Iger comes in, and Bob Iger's like, okay, we're running out of ideas with our original characters, so let's bring in Marvel and Lucasfilm. And at first, it seemed like everything was going well, but then the second that Han Solo was revealed to be a loser dad in The Force Awakens, that disrupted everything. And people gave these movies a chance, right? They all did really well at the box office, but by the time Solo came out, everyone had had enough. And it just goes to show you how that downward trend happened. So then they win the goodwill of the fans back with The Mandalorian, only to destroy it with the firing of Gina Carano. And then we see the disappointments of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. The latest Pixar films have been disastrous. The latest Marvel films have all been disastrous. Willow, they did a whole first season and then took it off and used it as a tax write-off. If I was a Disney investor, and by the way, I'm not a financial expert and I'm not a lawyer, so no finance advice or legal advice. But if I was an investor in Disney, I would be really ticked off by all of this. This is a terrible development for the once great giant of Americana that was Disney. And, it's so sad to see the direction that it has gone, that it has taken, that it's gone from being something that promoted good values, like being heroic, being brave, facing adversity, picking yourself up by the bootstraps, hard work, true love. And that's all been brushed aside so that Rachel Zegler can make videos crying about why don't people like her. I'm a wealthy rich celebrity who just bashes the peasant's favorite Disney movie. Why won't people love me? There's a great scene. I highly recommend this. Andy Griffith, he's kind of known for playing kind of folksy roles like Sheriff Andy Taylor on the Andy Griffith Show, or the lawyer on the show Matlock, which is still one of my favorite legal dramas of all time. He plays like these folksy characters, these country bumpkins who do right by their communities, and in the case of Matlock, turns out he's this legal savant who gets what's best for his clients. And he played in a movie called A Face in the Crowd, where he plays this celebrity who was found in prison. He was just this traveling, rambling guitar player, and he rises and rises, and he becomes the number one television star. And then in one moment, his whole career collapses. And there's this scene where he's begging the wait staff of a party he was supposed to host, where no one is coming. The wait staff is laughing at him, and he grabs one and says, "Say you love me, say you love me." And that's what's happening with Disney right now. They're begging their fans to love them, but the fans aren't responding. The Star Wars hotel was a total disaster. The parks have been going down as Disney starts to implement these, more adult themed ideas, where men are dressing up as women and pretending that they're women when they could just hire women for these roles, and or they're gender and race swapping characters, but not certain ones, right? Like we're never going to see Mark Wahlberg play Black Panther, right? It's all going to, and he shouldn't, by the way. But if you're going to race swap a character like Ghost, that opens up the door for that, right? But no, it's only going one way, and it's the way of the woke. It's the way of political correctness. And obviously, I always say woke people don't have money, and they don't actually care about these properties. They care about She-Ra, Princess of Power. They care about Steven Universe for some reason, and maybe some shall we say mature themed anime, which I watch anime for grown-ups, but I don't engage in sort of the adult-themed anime that these weirdos on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram engage in. But for some reason, Disney thinks that they're their new fan base, and they're not. There's no such thing as the modern audience. Those folks don't have any money. And if you don't believe me, look at the box office returns. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, box office failure. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, failure. The only one that made any money was the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and that was only because of word of mouth. The first week it didn't do that well, but people went to see it and were like, "Oh, it's actually pretty good, go see it," which is what happened with me. I had no intention of watching it until it came out on Disney+. But then someone said, "Oh, no, you need to go see it. It's actually good." So I did. But that's not good for Disney. Disney, their movies used to always be, if they weren't box office smashes, they at least made a profit, and that's just not the case anymore. And so, yeah, of course, if I was an investor, I would file a lawsuit, because the decisions that have been made by the current crop of Disney leadership have been disastrous, and it's time for new leadership. They need another Mike Eisner. They, quite frankly, need another Walt Disney, but they're not going to get that. So they need to settle for a new Mike Eisner, someone to usher in a new Disney renaissance who can manage, Pixar and 20th Century Studios and Marvel Entertainment and Lucasfilm without causing any trouble and without antagonizing the built-in audience that Disney has squandered. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment and tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to StudioJake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.